Putin to visit China in October. Chinese President Xi Jinping has told the head of the Moscow Senate that he plans to receive the Russian leader, TASS news agency reported. Russian President Vladimir Putin reportedly accepted Chinese President Xi Jinping's invitation to visit Beijing in October, after which the two leaders set off for their respective destinations, Beijing. Chinese leaders visited Moscow in March to improve relations amid the Ukraine crisis and growing tensions with the West. Putin's itinerary came to an end on Monday, with Xi Jinping meeting with Russian Federation President Valentina Matvienko. Russian Federation Council Vice President Andrei Denisov said on Tuesday that she told Matvienko that Putin is preparing for China's visit to Beijing in October to attend the third conference program for international cooperation, TASS news agency reported. When Xi Jinping invited Putin during his visit to Moscow in March this year, the leaders of the two countries signed a memorandum of understanding for new avenues of cooperation to move bilateral relations forward. Matvienko visited Beijing this week as part of a government delegation meeting with Chinese lawmakers to implement an agreement signed by Putin and Xi Jinping in March. We discussed various issues related to Russia-China relations, Matvienko told reporters after meeting with Xi on Monday. Even though we live in a new environment, I believe that China, which is an important country and a great country, will not change for anyone. Our relations are not affected by any situation or foreign policy. Not Russia or China will allow anyone to talk to them using force and threat. Xi Jinping told Matvienko that Russia and China have an important role in the development and advancement of the people. China is willing to continue working with Russia to support the building of a prosperous, stable, and just world. China has challenged the U.S. to join Western sanctions against Moscow and is still in the midst of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Xi Jinping proposed 12 items to end the conflict in Ukraine in February, but the U.S. administration abandoned the plan. Putin last visited China in February 2022, just weeks before Russia began military action against Ukraine. Diplomatic cover: after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for the Russian leader on suspicion of committing war crimes in Ukraine. All eyes will be on Vladimir Putin this week, expected to make his first appearance on the world stage since the Russian president's Wagner offensive threatened his tight grip on power. Putin is expected to attend Tuesday's virtual meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO), a regional security group led by Beijing and Moscow. But while the leaders that have met so far have provided Putin with an eager audience, after he narrowly plunged into chaos last weekend, his appearance, even virtual, may open a window of support for them. In this short but chaotic rebellion, Wagner, a private group of mercenaries led by warlord Yevgeny Prigozhin, managed important military installations in 2 Russian cities. Civil war loomed imminent as thousands of protesters marched into Moscow and the Kremlin deployed heavy military forces in the streets. Collusion immediately ended the offensive, Wagner's opponents retreated, and Prigozhin was sent to Belarus. But a week later, the inner workings of the deal, Wagner's fate, and what that means for Putin's policy remain unclear. These issues will be discussed by Asian leaders such as Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and others, as well as other leaders at Tuesday's virtual meeting, including Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is hosting this annual meeting. Countries represented by Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, many of them, like Putin, are led by powerful people. Experts believe Putin will use the meeting to create an image of power and convince his partners in Moscow and around the world that he is still stable. Pharmacist Derek Grossman, Rand Advanced Assessment, said, because it's virtual, they won't be there in person, or they will stand shoulder to shoulder and be a powerful person in the showdown. Company. I want to tank. Grossman said many leaders at the conference looked to Russia and China as models for how they wanted to run their societies, as authoritarian regimes. If Putin sees the outcome of this attack, that tells them something. Even the most powerful people don't have to protect the possibility of attack in their own country, Grossman said. Sino-Russian Vision. SCO was established in 2001 by China, Russia, and some former Soviet states to combat terrorism and increase border security in Central Asia. In recent years, the scale and influence of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has continued to expand, thanks to the efforts of Xi Jinping and Putin against Western influence. Iran, which signed the responsibility agreement at the meeting last year, is expected to become a full member this year. Belarus, a close ally of Russia that helped launch the first attack on Ukraine, was also invited as an observer state. Great, say the experts, now they're looking for membership. The two most powerful presidents in the world for a long time, Xi and Putin, have developed close relations in recent years and declared unlimited friendship shortly before Putin's invasion of Ukraine in the second month of 2022. China has since refused to condemn the war, instead offering more political and financial support to Russia and accusing NATO of fueling conflict and enlargement. The Kremlin's information is false. But Putin's reckless war has undermined Sino-Russian cooperation. Xi Jinping, therefore, does not want to spoil China's relations in Europe, and does not want China to be a bigger target for NATO than it was before the war, Grossman said. More objective than Xi Jinping, he has no doubts about the consequences of Sino-Russian relations, the absurdity of the war, and its impact on China's international image. On Tuesday, she will deliver a keynote speech at the conference via video link, according to a statement from China's foreign ministry. For Putin, Xi's support has important consequences. Yasuhiro Matsuda, a professor at the Institute for Advanced Study in Asia at the University of Tokyo, said Beijing is in a tough spot because Russia has failed, and it's not something China can control. Matsuda says China's best results after Putin's invasion were a quick victory for Russia, the collapse of the Zelensky government, and the failure of Europe and America to act. It was the best situation for China, but it's gone, Matsuda said. On Tuesday, he added, Xi Jinping still needs to show his authority and power to the audience at home. So he will follow the past. Dictatorship illuminates Moscow. Observers of Western powers and liberals view Russia's struggle as a failure, as Putin's time is weak. But experts say congressional leaders who have experienced their own power struggles may take a very different approach. SCO member Kazakhstan is seeing a deadly strike in 2022 amid growing discontent with the government. The resulting violence resulted in the deaths of more than 160 people and the arrests of thousands, and authorities ask the Russian military to help quell the conflict. Putin, on the contrary, managed to end Wagner's revolt without bloodshed before he reached the capital. He exiled his rival Prigozhin and led some Wagnerian warriors who probably agreed to a contract with the Russian army. In the eyes of China and other members, SCO, this is the best thing because not many politicians can do it, said Alexander Korolev, a coaching master in politics and international relations at New University, South Wales, Australia. The other members are not going to ask what happened, Korolev said. But I think they understand that strike is not the end of Putin's rule, said. Leaders in the administration have struggled from time to time, proving to the world and the elite that they can solve big problems.